My mother-in-law pointed across the dining table and said, "Malcolm and Taryn are starting a family. You need to move out so they can have this house." I looked at my husband. "Marcus, are you going to explain?" He knew what I meant. Instead, he said, "Maybe Mom has a point. We could downsize." So I smiled. Okay. 2 days later, movers were carrying my sofa out. Vivian snapped, "You can't take that. Marcus bought it." I looked at him. Did he? Marcus went pale? Because Vivian was about to learn furniture wasn't the most expensive thing her son had been pretending to pay for. Before the reveal, subscribe, comment your location and local time. Then back to the story. My name is Celeste Avery. I'm 38, and for most of my adult life, money had never come quickly. I started in cybersecurity as an analyst, moved into cloud security, then management, and eventually became a senior director of cloud security for a large fintech company. By the time I was 33, years of bonuses, vested stock, and aggressive saving had finally given me enough for something I had wanted for a long time: a home that was mine. The house in View Park cost about $2.65 million. I put down roughly 20% and took out a jumbo mortgage while rates were still low. Between the mortgage, property taxes, and homeowners insurance, carrying that house cost me close to $12,000 every month. It was expensive, but I could afford it, and more importantly, I had bought it 2 years before I married Marcus. His name had never been on the deed. His name had never been on the mortgage. Marcus knew that. Before we married, we had both used separate attorneys for a prenup that clearly listed the house as my separate property. There was never any confusion between us. The confusion belonged to his family. Marcus was a commercial banking relationship manager. He made good money good enough to drive a nice car, pick up dinner checks, pay utilities, and take us on the occasional weekend trip. What he did not make was enough to support a $12,000 house by himself. His mother, Vivian, never knew that. The lie started small, at one family dinner. She smiled at me and said, "Marcus has always been such a provider. You're lucky he worked so hard to give you this life." I started to correct her. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. Later, he said, "Why turn our finances into family gossip at the time?" That sounded reasonable. So I let it go. Then Vivian started telling relatives that Marcus paid the mortgage. He never corrected her. A few months later, I heard him say, "You know what this house costs me every month." That bothered me. But when I confronted him, he called it harmless. Mom likes feeling proud of me. For 3 years, I told myself it wasn't worth fighting about. Every compliment Vivian gave him made the story a little bigger. The house became Marcus's investment. My furniture became what Marcus provided. Even my home office was something he had supposedly made possible for me. I thought I was protecting our privacy. I didn't realize Marcus was using my silence to build himself a resume inside his own family. The dinner that changed everything started with good news. Malcolm and Taryn had been married for 4 years, and that Sunday they announced Taryn was 11 weeks pregnant, for once. Vivian cried happy tears. I did too. Whatever problems I had with Marcus's family, the baby had nothing to do with them. I hugged Taryn and told her I was happy for her. Then Vivian started looking around my house, not admiring it, measuring it. She looked toward the hallway. "You have 4 bedrooms here." "Right, 4. And that office could easily become a nursery." I glanced at Marcus. Taryn gave a nervous laugh. "We're fine where we are for now." They lived in a decent 2-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes away. Vivian ignored her. "A baby needs space, a yard, somewhere grandparents can visit." Malcolm smiled awkwardly. "We'll figure something out." Vivian leaned back in her chair. "You shouldn't have to." Something in her tone made me put down my fork. She looked directly at me. "You and Marcus don't need all this space." The table went quiet. I said, "What exactly are you suggesting?" She answered like the solution was obvious. "Malcolm and Taryn should move here." I thought she meant temporarily. Then she continued, "You and Marcus can get something smaller, maybe a condo downtown. This house makes much more sense for a growing family." Taryn's face changed. "Vivian, we didn't ask them to move. I know, I'm suggesting what everyone is too polite to say." I stared at her. You're telling me to leave my house. Vivian frowned. Don't make it dramatic. Marcus pays nearly $12,000 a month for this place. If he wants to use it to help his brother, that's his decision. There it was. 3 years of Marcus's lie sitting right between the dinner plates. I looked at my husband. He stopped chewing. Marcus. He wouldn't look at me. Are you going to explain he knew exactly what I was giving him? 1 sentence. That was all it would take. Instead, he rubbed his forehead. Celeste. Not now. Your mother just told me to move out. Vivian folded her arms. For family. I kept my eyes on Marcus. He finally looked up. Maybe Mom has a point. My stomach went cold. He continued. Malcolm needs the space more right now. We could downsize for a year. You want me to leave? I'm asking you to think about the family. Malcolm shifted in his chair. If Marcus is really offering. We'd be grateful, Taryn whispered. Malcolm. I looked around my own dining room. Vivian looked victorious. Marcus looked relieved. He thought I was going to protect him again, so I smiled. Okay. Marcus exhaled. Vivian smiled wider. They thought I had surrendered. What they didn't understand was that Marcus had just chosen the lie over me. So I decided he could keep the lie. I was taking everything else that was mine. Monday morning, I called a family law attorney before I called a mover. Her first question was simple. Whose name is on the deed mine? Mortgage mine. Prenup, yes. Then she gave me instructions that were even simpler. Do not change the locks. Do not touch Marcus's personal property. Do not remove anything that could reasonably be considered shared marital property. I wasn't interested in creating a legal mess just to make a dramatic point, so I spent the next several hours doing the opposite. I photographed every room. I pulled copies of the deed, mortgage statements, insurance records, and the premarital property schedule attached to our prenup. Then I booked a furnished executive apartment for 2 months and rented a climate-controlled storage unit. I wasn't running away. I was creating enough distance to make my next decisions without Marcus or Vivian standing over me. By Monday afternoon, I had a moving company scheduled for 6:30 Tuesday morning. I also sent Marcus one message. I am moving out temporarily. Our marriage is over. My attorney will contact you regarding the house. He called 3 times. I didn't answer. At 6:28 the next morning, the truck pulled up. 5 movers came inside with an inventory list. They took the sectional I had owned before Marcus. My dining table, 2 rugs, my artwork, my office desk and monitors, bookcases, patio furniture, the espresso machine, my bedroom dresser, boxes of books, clothes, cookware, and personal files. The built-in appliances stayed. The fixtures stayed. Marcus's belongings stayed. Anything we had purchased jointly stayed exactly where it was. By 8:30, the living room looked strangely bare. That was when Vivian arrived. She marched through the front door and stopped when she saw 2 movers carrying the sectional toward the truck. What are you doing moving? I can see that. Why are they taking the furniture because it's mine? She laughed once. Marcus bought that sofa. I looked past her at my husband. Did he? Marcus's jaw tightened. Vivian turned. Marcus. He stared at the floor. Just let her take it. Mom. Vivian's expression changed. Why, he said nothing. A mover walked past us carrying one of my framed prints. Vivian followed him with her eyes. You're taking everything. No, I said. I'm taking everything that's mine. I finally learned the difference. Marcus stepped toward me. Celeste, can we please talk about this privately? We had that chance Sunday. I handed him the card with my attorney's contact information. My lawyer will contact yours about the house. His face went blank. My lawyer? What are you talking about? I'm talking about the part where this stopped being a marriage Sunday night. An hour later, the truck doors closed. As I walked toward my car, Vivian called after me. You're going to regret walking away from a house my son pays for. I almost turned around, almost corrected her. But by then, I wanted to hear what Marcus would say when I wasn't there to protect him. The first night in the furnished apartment was quieter than I expected. No Marcus, no Vivian, no one explaining my own life back to me. At 6 the next morning, my phone buzzed with the mortgage notification. Almost $12,000 had left my account, just like it had every month for years. I paid it. Of course I did. The loan was mine. The property taxes were mine. The homeowners insurance was mine. Ruining my own credit to punish Marcus would have been stupid. I had spent 5 years building equity in that house. I wasn't going to damage my own asset because my husband had damaged my trust. Leaving the house did not make it any less mine. It only made the lie harder for him to maintain. 3 days later, Vivian called. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. Celeste, I need you to explain something. That depends. Marcus says Malcolm can't move into the house. That's correct. He says it's complicated. It isn't. There was a pause. Then she asked, Whose house is it? I waited. Marcus told me your name is on the deed. My name is the only name on the deed. Silence. You mean his name isn't on it at all? No, her voice dropped. But he pays the mortgage. I said nothing. Another pause. Celeste number Vivian. He doesn't. I could almost hear her trying to rearrange 3 years of assumptions, but the payment is almost $12,000. Yes. And Marcus says he can't afford it. I know. Her breathing changed. Then, who has been paying it? I looked out at the city through the apartment window. The woman you told to move out. Nothing, for several seconds. She didn't speak. Then, very quietly, she said, Marcus told me he handled the house. Marcus told you a lot of things. He said he was carrying the mortgage. He said the place cost him a fortune. He said you were lucky he could provide it. I know what he said. Then why didn't you correct him? That question landed harder than I expected. At first, I thought I was protecting our privacy. Eventually, I realized I was protecting his lie. Vivian sounded defensive again. I honestly thought my son paid for that house. That should have made you less comfortable telling his wife to leave. Not more. She inhaled sharply. I was trying to help Malcolm. He has a baby coming, and Malcolm has a home. A 2-bedroom apartment. Yes, a home. She went quiet again. Then she asked the question that told me she still didn't understand. So Malcolm can't have the house, I almost laughed. Instead, I said, Vivian, Malcolm was never getting my house, she whispered. Your house? Yes. Then I added the part Marcus had spent years making sure she never heard. And neither was Marcus. That evening, Marcus texted me. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I should have told the truth. Just 4 words. Why did you tell Mom Marcus came to see me 2 nights later? He looked tired, but not heartbroken. That should have told me something. The first thing he said was, Why did you tell Mom? Not, I'm sorry. Not, I should have stopped her. Just that. I stared at him. You still think the problem is that she knows? That's not what I mean. It's exactly what you mean. Marcus dragged a hand across his face. You embarrassed me. Celeste. I almost laughed. I didn't embarrass you. I stopped protecting the story you told. He looked away. It wasn't some conspiracy. Mom is old-fashioned. She likes thinking I provide for my wife. And you liked letting her think it. It made her proud of me. So proud that she believed she could redistribute my house. Marcus exhaled sharply. You know how she is. Yes, and you knew whose house she was throwing me out of. That isn't fair. What part? He went quiet. Then he said something worse. I didn't think you'd actually leave. That was the moment everything became perfectly clear. For years, Marcus had expected me to absorb whatever discomfort protected his image. I paid the mortgage. I tolerated Vivian's comments. I let him take credit. And when his lie finally demanded something bigger, he assumed I would pay that price too. You thought I'd stay quiet again. I thought we'd work it out privately. After you publicly agreed I should leave. He sat down. Come home. I'll tell Malcolm they can't move in. I'll explain everything to Mom. No. His head snapped up. Celeste, this doesn't have to end our marriage. Your mother didn't end our marriage when she told me to leave. I held his eyes. You did when you knew the truth and decided correcting her would cost you too much pride. Marcus swallowed. I made a mistake. No, you made a choice. He started talking about counseling, about family pressure, about how hard Vivian had always been to disappoint. I listened. Then I realized I had heard versions of those excuses for 3 years. The most expensive thing I had paid for in that house wasn't the mortgage. It was Marcus's pride. By then, both of our attorneys had reviewed the title, the prenup, and the property records. His lawyer wasn't promising him my house. He was advising him to negotiate. We eventually agreed Marcus would remain there temporarily, then move out within 30 days while the rest of our marital property was handled separately before he left my apartment. He stopped at the door. So that's it. I shook my head. No. Marcus, Sunday was when you decided. I opened the door. I'm just putting it in writing. Malcolm called me a week after Marcus moved into his temporary apartment. His voice was quieter than I remembered. I owe you an apology. I waited. I thought Marcus was offering us the house. He couldn't. I know that now. He hesitated. I should have asked you before sitting at that table acting like it was already decided. Yes, I said. You should have. He accepted that without arguing. Taryn had already made her position clear. She told Malcolm she was not bringing their baby into someone else's divorce, especially not into a house neither of them had been invited to live in by the actual owner. They stayed in their 2-bedroom apartment until the lease ended, a few months later. They found a 3-bedroom townhouse they could actually afford. No mansion, no luxury yard, no $12,000 monthly carrying cost. Just a normal home for a growing family. Vivian took longer. Eventually, she asked to meet me for coffee. The first thing she said was, I really didn't know. I looked at her. You knew enough to tell me to leave. She flinched. I was trying to help Malcolm, with something that belonged to neither of you. Her eyes dropped to the table. Marcus made me believe it was his, and I let him. She looked surprised. That part is mine. I should have corrected the lie years ago. For a moment. She seemed relieved. Then I continued. But your mistake wasn't believing Marcus paid for the house. Her relief disappeared. Your mistake was believing that if he did, you had the right to decide whether his wife deserved to live there. Vivian had no answer for that. Marcus moved out exactly when our attorneys had agreed. He rented a normal 1-bedroom apartment and kept his job. His life wasn't ruined. It was simply smaller than the version he had spent years selling his family. Once he formally surrendered possession. I changed the locks and brought my furniture back from storage. The dining table returned last. I stood beside it in the same room where Vivian had told me to move out. Same walls, same mortgage, same deed. But the house felt different for the first time. Nobody living there needed me to pretend I was smaller than I was. 8 months later, the divorce was final. The house remained mine, just as the prenup and property records had always said it would. Marcus kept his job, his apartment, and whatever dignity he could rebuild without borrowing mine. Malcolm and Taryn had moved into their townhouse by then. A few weeks before their baby arrived, I sent them a small gift, a blanket, 2 children's books. Nothing extravagant. Taryn texted me afterward. Thank you, and for what it's worth. We should have said no that night. I stared at the message for a while before replying. Yes, you should have. That was enough. Marcus contacted me once more. I wish I'd told the truth sooner. I almost typed a long response. Instead, I wrote, so do I. Then I put my phone down. One Sunday morning, I sat alone at my kitchen table with coffee while sunlight moved across the floor. My phone buzzed. The monthly housing payment had cleared. Nearly $12,000. Same mortgage, same property taxes, same insurance. For years. That number had quietly funded a life Marcus took credit for and Vivian believed belonged to her son. Now it bought something much simpler. My own space, my own decisions, my own peace. The mortgage never got cheaper. But once I stopped paying for Marcus's pride along with it, the house finally felt like mine again. What would you have done in Celeste's position if your spouse let their family believe a lie, then chose protecting that lie over protecting you? Would you stay and try to rebuild the marriage, or would that be the moment you walked away? I'd really like to hear your perspective. So tell me in the comments what you would have done and why. And let me know which part of this story surprised you the most. Thank you for watching all the way to the end and for supporting the channel. If you enjoy family drama, betrayal, and boundary stories like this, please subscribe and join us for the next one.